I've always been fascinated by history from a very young age. I think one of my favorite subject in school was English and history class. Throughout my education and also talking to different people from Africa and also the people I met in Britain, I've engaged on the subject of migration and the family populations that we have across the African continent. Born in Burundi, um, I always assumed that um, I was of 100% a Burundi ancestry without understanding that um, Burundi is a modern name from modern times, not necessarily digging into the past. Um, what was Burundi before it was founded by the Ganwa dynasty? So combining the different historical archives and combining, of course, genetic archaeology, colonial archives, I was absolutely fascinated to find um, the very complex history of our ancestors. Of course, I cannot claim that my story is similar to the stories of other families um, or countries. We all have very unique um, histories, but each individual story tells the story of generations of places, religion, and even race. So when I did my sort of detective work to try and understand what was the story of Burundi, for example, um, it was quite fascinating for me personally because obviously, um, in terms of the tribal identity, uh, yeah, I'm quite fortunate, I think, that I've never really actually had a father who said that I'm either a Hutu or um, or a Tutsi or a Twa, uh, or even from the Ganwa dynasty. So I um, embarked on this DNA journey in 2019 just to sort of study more my health predisposition um, and really not focus on population because I was very certain that I'm 100% Burundian. Um, so when the family trees started popping out um, and the DNA results came up, I was absolutely shocked. Shocked that there were stories that most certainly I did not learn about in class, in school. So one of the most recent um, stories that I came across was an archaeology sample. These are British Romans who were excavated from Britain. Um, this particular sample was matched to a population of North Africa origin, uh, most likely around the regions of Morocco, they would have probably been the soldiers captured by Romans who went on expeditions and found themselves on um, English soil. The thing that really strikes me about this is that I remember getting an email from someone from Morocco um, who basically said, um, my grandmother has been looking for a family. She's of mixed heritage. Um, Her mother was of Yemenite and Ethiopian heritage, but they left Morocco a long time ago. And he said that for close to um, 60 years, she had been looking for her family. What really moved me about this story is that you have people who certainly have family spread across the world, but who do not um, have access to data records to help them trace those lost families. So it makes you really reflect on the importance of keeping connections and interacting with your people. So going back to the DNA results that I got, at first, when I got the first results, it was actually showing that I am Rwandan, Eritrean, Ethiopian on the first page. But as the database improved, so the more people from Burundi they had in a database, um, they were able to actually tell um, whether you had heritage from Burundi and Rwanda. Um, so you can clearly see the percentage. 36%, it leaves me with a big chunk of my DNA coming from somewhere else. But they were certain that I had um, at least one ancestor who was from Burundi and also from Rwanda. Um, I really like this picture because that's where the story starts. Because before Burundi and Rwanda existed, there was a country that existed. Perhaps it was even covering both countries as one nation, one state. So as I dig deeper in colonial archives, I came across different names. I came across, for example, the Kingdom of Bungwe. The Kingdom of Bungwe was founded by someone called Rwamba. The name almost sounds Swahili. Um, so I wondered, where did Rwamba come from? He had to come from somewhere to create his own kingdom, Bungwe. The kingdom's totem was leopard, hence the name of the clan, Benirwamba or Benengwe. Uh, so when I discovered this information, I started to understand why I had so many relatives from Rwanda. And the regions where they come from is southern Rwanda. So the regions of Nyanza, so the former royal capital. That made a lot of sense because with the kingdom of Bungwe, it extended from southern Rwanda into Burundi, current Burundi, stretching into Ngozi and all these other provinces like Kayanza. So it will make sense that I have all these cousins who were part of that kingdom, one territory. And of course, following the fall of that kingdom, some of the inhabitants may have moved into Rwanda, others stayed into Burundi. It actually fell with the coming of Ntare the First, Rusatsi, after a battle, of course, that occurred between Ntare's family and the Benegwamba. So now the other quite interesting thing that I discovered, back in 2023, I was being asked, what is my tribe? It was mainly coming from Burundi circles. I told people that I didn't know which tribe I am, but I could tell them which clan I am. So in Burundi, my father's clan was known as the Abanyakarama. But further research into that male line, I discovered that they were actually from the clan of Abega, of Buha House, royal house. What surprised me the most was my father's male line is two generations with my mother's maternal line, Ruhaga, someone called Ruhaga, who was the king of Buha. So it seems my paternal line, Mutasha, was the grandfather of Mwami Ruhaga. Now, going back to the question to know whether these were Hutus or Tutsis or Twa, based on genetics, they did not belong to any of the three. But when you look at the male ancestry, they would have come from the border. This is, of course, a long, long time ago. They would have come from the border of Nigeria and Cameroon, making their way into Chad, into Sudan, and entering from Uganda, and then eventually going into Burundi and Rwanda. The other thing that I discovered, which again studies the line of my father, I discovered that the male they descend from is probably one of the oldest paternal lineage in the world. So, you're almost talking about Adam. So my paternal line is A1, B1, M118. This is one of the oldest paternal lineage on the planet. And if you look at the descendant of that male, you find something else even more incredible. The descendant of this male can be found in the region of Amhara, which is northern Ethiopia. It can also be found in Tanzania, in the clan of Sandawe. This is a distinct tribe that uses the click sound dialect. And you can also find, you can find the Khoisan from Botswana, from Southern Africa, and Namibia and South Africa. So this is my paternal male ancestry. Now, if we go and study what my mother's line is like in terms of ancestry, I'll share the genetic report that I got from 23andMe. You start to see again one of the oldest female ancestry, which is LOA. So this is your mother's mother female ancestors. And you can clearly see you have the LO from the regions of Southern Africa going there, and then you can see migration patterns. Now I'll share something else, which is quite fascinating. Others do get excited about matching the king of Egypt. I get excited because of this particular information, that me and Mandela share a maternal line. Was probably one of the most exciting discovery on my genetic research journey. If we try and go in deeper and try and compare, for example, the language similarities that we have in the genetic groups that we have in the report, you'll find that the language spoken in Burundi has been associated or closely related and linked with Bunyoro and Buganda languages. To me, that tells me that there's a lot of history there, because people are united through culture and language. And of course, if we go by colonial archives, which is not always the best way to actually study people's history, you will find that my father's male ancestry and also the mother's female ancestry all can trace their lineage to someone they called Mututsi, which I suspect is where they got all this confusion about Tutsi and Hutu and all of that nonsense. So we know that the house of Baha is descendant of Mututsi. Mututsi had many sons, but you can clearly see Mutasha is my father's male ancestor, and Ruhaga is my maternal female ancestry. So the Ruhaga line are known as the Abenengwe. It's that line of Gwamba's kingdom of Bungu. And Mutasha is the line of Abanyakarama, those who are known as Abanyakarama in Burundi. You would actually even find Abanyakarama in Rwanda, you find them in Burundi, you also find them in Eastern Congo. But really, they are all what we call Abaha, referring to this son here called Muha, which I believe was referring to the kingdom of Buha, because that's where Ngami Ruhaga was king. And that's the line as well of Prince Machoncho, from obviously the Benekwamba and Benengwe. But looking at what the missionaries, this book was written by missionaries, you can see all the territories where they lived. So, for example, they talk about all this migration. Of course, again, this is only one source. We haven't got many sources to verify these claims. But I showed you that the male lineage is one of the oldest, literally giving birth to all other non-male lineages of today. I wanted to share something else, which I find quite fascinating. The old map before the 1884 Berlin Conference looks at the names of kingdoms. You can see the kingdom of Luba, Bemba. You can see Malawi existed back then. You can see the Zulu existed. The Xhosa had their own distinct territory, kingdom, which I believe is the line of Mandela's maternal line. And while all these kingdoms existed, you can clearly see Rwanda and Rundi. It was called Rundi, not Burundi. Rundi kingdom existed. Something else that I also find quite fascinating is what they call an admixture. So an admixture is combining both your parents. So it's really looking at all the lines. So from your father, your mother, from their maternal line, from their paternal line, and they try and do an analysis to see who were your ancestors. So now this is actually going to get even more confusing, because my admixture, meaning combining all my ancestry, reads as this. So I had most definitely an Ethiopian ancestor. I had a Lemba from Southern Africa. I had a Jewish Ethiopian ancestor. I had a Saudi ancestor. I had a Bedouin ancestor. I had a Yoruba ancestor. I had a Mandika ancestor. Someone from the East. I even had a Yoruba. I have a brother-in-law who married my sister. He's from the Yoruba land. This is the story of our house. It's not to be confused. I almost forgot to mention that I also had, most certainly, one ancestor was Jewish from Yemen. So this is my personal individual story, from Professor Katiabwa and Anezi Hagaima, my mother. So all the ancestors included people from these communities. Now, if we were to go by DNA results, or archaeological matches. Where do you suppose I would apply for my passport? Do you know? It is so diverse that, I could qualify for an Ethiopian passport. I could qualify for a Zimbabwean passport. I could qualify for Saudi passport, um, a Mali passport, Nigerian passport, if we were to go by DNA results. And this is why I'm coming back to this. The reason why I actually did this interview or this talk or podcast is to really critically analyze this notion of citizenship, this notion of um, belonging to a country. What defines citizenship? Um, None of us, in fact, created this planet we live on. But God chose for us this planet. And as you've seen it, people have moved for centuries and centuries, and he left a DNA signature in our DNA. I am fascinated by the individual stories of DNA cousins I've discovered. I'm almost glued on the screen reading their stories and discovering the cultures of their ancestors. I think what is crucial going forward is for us to really reinvent the world, how the world interacts with each other. Whether it's a Dutch-speaking South African or a Yemenite Jewish who lives in Israel, to a Palestinian who lives in Egypt, we ought to address the injustices that we've seen imposed too often by politicians. God is the creator. We only have one creator. There's no two creators. The sooner we learn how to live with each other, respect each other's diversity, the better this world will be. Many of us have had to learn the hard way, a very painful way, in fact. Being made stateless, being forced out of your land, being chased simply because of who you are, not because of anything you've done. If we truly confess to be worshippers of God, one true God, we should start by embracing the diversity God created. And I hope soon, not later, we can make that peace and we all worship together in our diversity. And I hope that day comes very soon. And thank you.